Hi, I'm Dr. Suneel Godbole. Today, I'm going to talk about the interesting journey of how concepts of parenting evolved over the last few generations. By generations, approximately in 15 to 30 years, one generation changes. Researchers have given names to these different generations as per the situations across the world at that time. They have also commented very aptly on these parenting generations, and we are going to discuss these generations right now. The first generation which is discussed is the lost generation. Why lost? We will discuss it shortly. This generation was born in the year 1883 to 1900. This is the time that the generation was of young soldiers of the First Blood War. This First World War has really traumatized this generation a lot. This generation had been prominently mentioned by Ernest Hemingway, the popular author of that time. Back then, the family system was such that father was the head of the family and the only earning member of the family, while the mother was supposed to just manage house and rear children. The joint family system of three generations, the grandfather, grandparents, parents and the grandchildren, they used to live together and they used to live together happily. When the earning member of this family, the father, was unfortunately killed in the First World War, the whole generation became directionless, and that is the reason it was a lost generation. Now, let's discuss the next generation, that is the greatest generation. The generation born between 1901 to 1927 had to fight as well as cope up with the global recession and the pandemic at that time, that is the Spanish flu. But it is this generation, that is the time the discovery of radio, phone, vehicles was done at the same time. They also experienced enormous destruction, unfortunately, because of the Second World War. This generation, the parents of this generation, always considered now family first and had to go through lots of financial stresses and hardship to survive and maintain their family. It is this generation which studied under the street light and became great in the world by their work. Next came the silent generation. The generation born between 1928 to 1945 had to fight with the financial constraints, the restrictions by the government, and ever-increasing communism at that time. During this time, the parents started thinking about family with only one or two children. The parents of this generation followed the principle, cut your coat according to cloth, and they used to rear their children with utmost awareness, even though there were financial limitations. So this is silent generation. Now, the baby boomer generation. Now there is a big change. The generation born between 1946 to 1964 experienced rapidly changing world as well as a blast or increasing population. Compared to previous generations, parents of these generations were well educated and vigilant. The parents of this generation started giving more attention to the multifaceted development of the child. The holistic development was their goal. And this is the first time, concept of quality time for children, giving quality time for the children was emerging in this baby boomer generation. This is the fourth level. Now the things were changing. Generation X, it is also called as Gen X. Robert Capa, a photographer, gave this name to this generation born between 1965 to 1980. This generation parents experienced collapsing family systems. It is during this time the epidemic of AIDS created serious effects on the male-female relationships. It is the same time when MTV, cable TV invaded our life aggressively. Probably as a result of all this, parents started paying more attention to their children. Parents of this generation believed that shaping and controlling children is their responsibility. They were aggressively behind their children. Obviously, this parenting style was later labeled as a helicopter parenting. So this is Generation X. Then came Generation Y. The generation born between 1981 to 1996 is called Generation Y or the Millennial Generation. Y2K part. While facing modern fast lifestyle, working by both the parents became essential for survival. It is this time the excess use of technology. This generation is using technology like anything. The parents of this generation strongly believe now in letting the children live freely. Now that helicopter parenting was reduced and the children will let them enjoy themselves on their own. This generation called the previous generation like outdated and disagreed with them on many points and had a lot of fight with the previous generation. That is Generation Y. Then came Generation Z or Gen Z. Due to excess use of internet, this generation born between 1997 to 2010 is also called as I generation, I for internet. Current parents who belong to this generation are more active on social media. Their children are also connected with each other in the virtual world. Now, mobile and computer have become essential part of life. They cannot be separated from life. This is Gen Z, which we are all going through. And now the last one, which is the recent one, is Gen Alpha or Generation Alpha. The generation born between after 2010 is called Gen Alpha. It seems that this generation can't survive without internet. This generation treats social media like their family. They are following the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Whole world is my family, but on the social media in a different way. They are losing interest in actual parenting. This generation and their Gen Z parents feel like they have got a formula to make every child Einstein. Actually, how many Einstein will be born? I think this will be decided by the next upcoming generation. Thank you.